Hi, everyone, and welcome to Ok Xoomer, Zoom interviews with creative engineers and more. I'm your host, Aaron Lichtig, Xometry guy and former Jeopardy champion. And I'm excited to be here today with the hosts of the Cool Part Show, which is brought to you by Additive Manufacturing Media. That's Stephanie Hendrixson in the top row and Pete Zelinski on the bottom row. So thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here.
All right, so Stephanie reports on 3D printing technology and applications as a senior editor at Additive Manufacturing, and she is one of the co-hosts of the Cool Part Show that highlights unique, unusual, and weird 3D printed parts. That's what we're going to be talking a lot about today. And Pete is the editor-in-chief of Modern Machine Shop magazine and Additive Manufacturing magazine, and he is also a co-host of the Cool Part Show. So, to get started, why did you decide to start the Cool Part Show to begin with?
You know, it didn't really start in a flash. We used sort of video to augment the coverage we were doing of additive manufacturing. You know, we do a lot of visits out in the field. We go to events, and more importantly, we go to sites where additive manufacturing is being used. And here and there, video in the beginning, maybe largely just for use on social media. We discovered that engagement went up to the extent that we were in some place weird or particularly holding something weird. And what we kind of started to learn from that is the tangible value of a 3D printed part, of additive manufacturing becoming real. That got interest and really helped sort of focus what was otherwise kind of conceptual things we were often talking about, and that we sort of hit on the simple idea of, yeah, let's just do that regularly. Let's just do a show where we bring out these parts, additive manufacturing becoming real, and use that as a device, not to talk about just the parts themselves, but about the promise of additive and the ways that industry is changing.
Yeah, and so those social media videos that we're doing, we were filming them on an iPhone, and so the very first concept for the show that Pete brought to me was, we're gonna film this thing on our phones, and it's gonna be like really quick and dirty. And then you know, we got to pull in our videographer Austin, we got to pull in our creative team, and it really just kind of like became a much bigger thing than it originally was. And yeah, it became that full-blown regular show now.
Yeah, so that is so true. Like, we thought we would do just like guerrilla iPhone video, and here we are now. We just put out what is practically a half-hour documentary piece on 3D printing of swabs. Like, the show has gone that far.
Nice. What are some of the coolest or most interesting parts you've seen over the first 2 seasons of the show?
You start, Stephanie.
Oh gosh. Okay, so one of my favorites is in our second season. It's the season 2 conclusion, and it's the vacuum chamber for quantum physics. And this was, like, to me, the coolest part, because it was something like, I saw a story about it in like a Google alert or something, and when I first saw this part with this weird like gyroid lattice on the outside, the first thing I thought was, we need this on the Cool Part Show. This is so weird looking. And so I was able to get in touch with some of the people who worked on the part, and I did a phone interview because they're in the UK. And I started writing this story, and I kind of pitched it to Pete as a potential idea. And okay, but it was our first part that was not coming from the United States, our first interview subjects that were not based in the US. And so we had all these details to work out. Okay, how do we get the part? How do we do this interview? How do we work out like the time differences and stuff? And what ended up happening was we were able to talk to Added Scientific at Formnext last year. And so we went and we met the engineer who worked on the part. And then at the end of the show, one of our colleagues went and picked it up. And so he flew back with it in his luggage. And so for me, it was just like this really cool journey from seeing this thing, just seeing this photo on the internet, and then actually getting to hold that part in my hand and talk about it, and also along the way getting to meet the people that worked on it.
So a favorite of mine, and they're all interesting parts, and they're all just such fun projects, but the one that comes right to mind, Fitz Frames. Stephanie right now is wearing Fitz Frames glasses. So they manufactured these glasses as part of the Youngstown Business Incubator in Youngstown, Ohio. And Stephanie and I paid a visit there to see what they were doing and understand them better. And honestly, my expectations were kind of low. I was thinking, oh, they're 3D printing glasses. Okay, that's neat. I thought this was sort of like a more run-of-the-mill story for us, and come to understand what they're doing, the ways they take measurements using your own phone as a way to customize glasses to the fit of your face. We each ordered a pair. They are super comfortable. It just became clear to me more as I understood it that we're getting a glimpse of the future of what eyeglass manufacturing is going to be. Like we came out of there and I had this moment with Stephanie in the parking lot about how awesome was that. And it is an example of there are all these things that we're privileged to get to see about ways additive manufacturing is having successes today that are going to transform not just industry, but our experience of products in our lives in years to come.
That's great. Now, looking out at the next few seasons of the show, do you have any new wrinkles planned?
Yeah. But so we basically have all of the footage done for season 3. It became more difficult there as things started to shut down for a while because of the COVID pandemic. So season 3 is a little delayed compared to what we expected, but it's coming. One thing I'll say is the overlap between additive manufacturing as an established technology and conventional, widely used industrial processes, like that's something we're having the chance to explore more and more. So in season 3, I'll go ahead and reveal to you, like you'll get to see an episode about a 3D printed cutting tool for machining, and that lets us explore a lot of issues about the ways that 3D printing of metal and machining metal interrelate.
Yeah, I think I won't reveal any further information about specific episodes, but I think that the show in season 3, things are getting a little bit more nuanced and also a little bit bigger at the same time. So you're going to see a couple of parts that are a little bit similar to things that we've covered in the past, but just as the technology has advanced and as our understanding of it, and the way that we're thinking about applying additive manufacturing has changed, we're able to have slightly different conversations and slightly bigger, more broad conversations about what these parts are saying, regarding the future of manufacturing.
Yeah.
Yes. And when does season 3 officially launch?
I don't know, we have a date. We're thinking about mid-July sometime.
Sometime this summer.
Excellent. All right. One final question. In your capacity both as the Cool Parts Show co-hosts and your capacity as journalists, what are some of the trends that excite you the most about the future of manufacturing?
Okay, I guess I'll go first.
Go for it.
So Pete probably knows what I'm going to say, but the whole first part of 2020, I've been really focused on reporting on sustainability and the circular economy and how that ties in and intersects with 3D printing. And it was this thing that at the beginning of the year, it's a really disruptive thing to think about. If you think about kind of the linear way that manufacturing has progressed previously, we take resources, we make them into products, those products eventually get discarded. It's really disruptive to think about taking that material, turning it into a product, and then somehow recapturing it and feeding it back into that manufacturing loop. But the interesting thing that's kind of happened is, of course, the whole coronavirus pandemic, people kind of seeing their supply chains break down in different ways, thinking about changing their operations somehow. And I'm hearing actually a lot more people talk about sustainability right now as a result of that. And so I'm excited to kind of see where that goes. And it's not just, using recycled materials. It's sure use those recycled materials, but apply it in a process that eliminates or avoids waste. Use it to make products that are more efficient, more energy efficient, and figure out ways of recapturing them at the end of their life cycle.
Resonating with that. So there's a lot happening in manufacturing technology, and within the world that I cover in modern machine shop, CNC machining, discrete part manufacturing, within additive manufacturing, like the development this year that affects both of them is the pandemic and all of the disruptions flowing from that. I don't think that they changed anything about the trajectory of where manufacturing is headed, but what they did do is, shake the box, and so everything sorts out and it lands where it wanted to land and not where it was initially. I think in a lot of cases we're jumping ahead maybe 2, 3, 4 years faster than where we would have got without that disruption. And I'm referring to things like automation, like using particularly lights out manufacturing and using unattended facility hours as a so far untapped largely production capacity, dealing with supply chain vulnerabilities. And people were starting to wake up to that even before some of that vulnerability became manifest this year. So all of that is happening, and the role that additive was promising to play, if anything, I think we can expect to see it get there a little faster. But as far as trends that I'm excited about, we're here as representatives of our additive manufacturing brand, and that is to me the most significant and the most disruptive manufacturing technology change that we're seeing unfold, and it connects to so many things. Stephanie just described how it sort of gets you to a circular economy in a way that none of the other manufacturing processes necessarily did. And other big picture themes that we're going to see play out is a different relationship between part making and design that can kind of completely reconceives manufacturing organizations, and different consumer experiences even. The mention of Fitz Frames is an example of that. All different kinds of ways that this different manufacturing process is going to translate directly to different experiences of the stuff in our lives. I think it's the real joy of my work right now is I think we're at this historical moment, and a few of us who get to be witness to it can appreciate it in advance. I think there's a great analogy to computer technology, digital technology in the 1980s. Everything that we're experiencing today in terms of networking, the internet, digital possibilities, everyone was talking about that and seeing that in the 80s, but it was just sort of speculation and limited successes among insiders there. We're insiders right now to the way our entire industrial world is changing.
Excellent. Well, Stephanie and Pete, it was great to have you here. Thank you for joining, and thanks for sharing all your thoughts with our audience. The Cool Part Show, you should definitely check it out. We will put all the information here on the screen and in the description section on YouTube, or you can just search for The Cool Part Show on YouTube. You will find it. It will pop up. This has been another episode of Ok Xoomer. We'll be back in another couple days with a new one. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks, Aaron.